I've spent some time trying to figure out why it's so upsetting to other people that I made the decision that I made.
If I was a man, I wouldn't be sitting here having this interview. You know, it's just the most normal thing in the world for fathers to do that. And yeah, I've never met another woman who's done this.
What are people's reactions? It's usually something like, What do you mean you don't have custody of your kids? Like, I think it's one of the last taboos. Non-custodial mothers are a big taboo. I'm Natalie, and I'm the mother of two. I have a 4.5-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl, and their father has full legal and residential custody. I was born in Israel, and I came to America when I was 5. My mother was not the type of person who should have had a child. She didn't really know what to do with me, so an aunt in America decided to take me. That's the one that primarily raised me my entire life. I always felt kind of like a burden on my aunt's family, and that was tough for me. I didn't have my own space. It was like they kind of basically put me wherever they had room for me, so whether it was a mattress on the floor or a couch. I grew up in the neighborhood of Borough Park in Brooklyn, which is one of the most Hasidic neighborhoods in all of America. In our community, as women, we're encouraged to have children. It's kind of like the apex of our existence is to become wives and mothers. I saw how unstable my life was growing up, and I didn't want to bring children into this world. I wanted to be a career woman. I wanted to be a businesswoman. I didn't want to have kids.
I always felt a little bit different. I can't say that I necessarily thought I'd go and get married and have kids. I wasn't sort of closed to it, but I didn't have that drive. But I met a very interesting Estonian man. You know, there was this instant connection and attraction, and we got together very quickly, and we'd sort of, you know, decided we were gonna, you know, be together forever and so on. He moved here, and we lived together in a squat in southwest London. I became pregnant, I was 23, which was really young, but it felt amazing. Like my body was doing the thing it was supposed to be doing. It was a really, really exciting time. When a woman is about to give birth, you need things to be, you know, the nest. You need the nest. We didn't have one, so we knew that, I just felt that there's going to be a nest for us in Estonia. It was my idea to move to Tallinn, where the father of my baby was from. Even after one day, I felt, no, this isn't okay. I've made the wrong decision. I can't do this. You know, it was just alien. I'm about to go through the most scary thing of my life to that point. I had left everything behind, you know, friends, family. Suddenly there was this like, this realization of a task I'd set myself. So then, of course, the time came. They just wheeled me away down into a basement theatre and came to and heard this baby crying, and I just thought, this is my baby, and that this was the rest of my life. And I was just like, oh my God.
It is the beginning of a new era, an era brim full of surprises and happiness.
When Claude first spoke to me, the first thing I felt was this is the father of my children. We were married when I was 20. We got a house, and when I was 25, my son Will was born.
Yes, mothers who care know one sure way to help fight decay is to brush right and use Gleam.
I remember, poring over magazines I would find in the old advertisements, like, what is a good wife and mother supposed to look like? And you remember those images from the 50s, where, this kind of beautiful sameness about everyone. I tried very hard to fit in and to adapt and to be the person that I felt was expected to be as a mother. But I also felt at the same time like there was a whole other story, another part of me that had yet to have any expression or any context in which to be expressed. I felt like there was another life beating under the surface of my skin. My daughter Hannah was the second of my 4 children, and she was diagnosed with cancer a month before her 3rd birthday. And she died a month before her 4th birthday, almost exactly a year later.
My family had very good intentions. There was someone who expressed interest in marrying me, and they married me off right away. One day, several female family members, they sat me down in front of a mirror. They were standing on either side of me, and they're like, "Do you think you're pretty?" There are thousands of younger, prettier girls than you that have more money than you, that have they have something to bring to the table. What do you have to bring? You don't have a good reputation. You don't have good family connections. You don't have money. What do you bring to the table? Here's a man that wants to marry you. Go for it. Nobody loves their husband when they get married. And the day that I was supposed to get married, Hurricane Sandy hit. This was a huge hurricane. Our hole was flooded, and they offered to give us our money back without penalty. Everybody offered to refund us, and I look back at it and I'm like, God gave me an out, and I didn't take it. I knew walking down the aisle that I was making the biggest mistake. I don't want him.
When my son was sort of weeks old, I wanted to get out massively. I just wanted to come home. Felt like a caged bird. We lived near the airport, and I'd see these planes every day going to... I knew which ones were the ones going to London. Just, God. But I knew that, even though I was finding it really hard, I knew that I couldn't leave. It was like a bad nightmare, just gone horribly, horribly wrong. But my son didn't even have a passport, just all of these things. And just, still getting to grips with breastfeeding and sleepless nights and how to look after a small baby, and to also sort of pull off this like escape. I mean, I'm sure it would have been possible, but I just couldn't quite do it. So I kind of just accepted that I was going to be there for a while and got on with it. I didn't tell anyone what's going on and how unhappy I was. It's weird for a mother with her tiny baby to be so miserable and unhappy. It's easier just to, be what the world wants you to be and try and appear as though everything's fine and everything's great and, yeah, motherhood's a breeze. It's fine, just a bit sleepy, that's all.
Even though I really wasn't emotionally ready to have kids, I forced myself to. And I had one baby, and then 12 months later, I had another baby. I lived above a woman who also had children, but she worked. And I was a stay-at-home wife and mother, and I remember, so pathetic, but I remember waiting by the window for her to come home so I could talk to her, so I could talk to somebody and say, how was your day? How was work? Like, tell me all about it. I felt like my brain was melting. That's what it felt like. It felt like my brain was turning into goo. And here I am stuck with a baby at home while other women my age are going off and they're working and they're exploring the world and they're traveling. I was struggling, but I would never tell anybody that I was struggling. I always put on a happy face. I always wanted to be like June Cleaver, just perfect all the time. You're not allowed to say that my baby's crying is driving me crazy. And I changed so many diapers today that I just don't want to change another diaper, and I just want to sleep. You're just not allowed to express feelings other than joy and elation at motherhood.
Hannah's death was the moment that my whole life pivots on. In that deep grief, I didn't even have room to think about another person or to care about how another person felt. So, you know, I started peeling away to this kind of raw place where I was just walking around and breathing in the world as myself. And that was a completely new perspective on everything for me. There came a point when it was clear that something had to change. A marriage that had been difficult for many years was ending, and I was going to have to make this very difficult decision to be the parent that was going to move out of our family home. That first evening when I drove away from our family home, it was incredibly painful. At the same time, though, another part of me felt an incredible sense of relief and possibility that something else now was possible.
My brother was getting married in the May, which was going to be 2 years after I'd moved there. And I just sort of immediately just kind of went, that's when I'm coming home. I just didn't think I had the strength to bring my son back with me and look after him and raise him by myself, because I felt like I was so underground within myself that I'd lost touch of my own confidence and ability to do things. I know I haven't seen this happen before in the world, that a mother leaves her child, but that doesn't mean that I can't do it. If I have to be the first one that I've ever seen doing it, then so be it. In this situation, it's the right thing to do. The agreement was that I was coming back to London for a few months. But I think even then, I kind of knew that I needed more than a few months. I remember getting in the taxi and saying goodbye to my 23-month-old baby son. And I was okay. And I was waving goodbye to my ex, getting in the taxi to go to the airport. My God, finally. I've got away from a really hard situation. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen or, you know, what I was going to do, but just that sense of, I can breathe now.
Perfection isn't sustainable. It's not sustainable. Eventually you crack. I don't have to be perfect anymore because everybody basically sees how imperfect my life is. Like, you know, I'm a mother without custody of my kids. That's already like the biggest imperfection you can have. So there's no pressure for me to look perfect. It's hard not to see my children all the time, but at the same time, every single time that I have a visitation with them, it's like a reunion all over again. I miss my kids, but when I'm with them, I'm 100% them. I have to compartmentalize in my brain. There's the mommy, and then there's the single woman, and there's nobody to tell me that I can't do something.
It essentially gave me, for the first time in my life, an opportunity to figure out who I was as a person, just without being defined by, you know, my marriage and being 24/7, you know, with my children. I really went through my adolescence in my early 40s because it was the first time I actually dated in my whole life. I started smoking when I was in my 40s.
We see each other a few times a year. It's a very tactile, very warm, very loving relationship, and we both really love spending time together. We just do whatever we want to do, you know, make biscuits at home or go to the cinema or just go to the park, or we just do stuff that is very normal and fun, and it's like getting to know each other. It's a very different relationship, I'm sure, compared to most mother-sons, but it's beautiful. There's so much love.
Sometimes it is better for the children and the family if the mother is the parent that moves out. I definitely felt judged as a mother. I was told that I should have been sterilized and not allowed to have children. While we hold this expectation that there is this ideal mother, none of us had one. None of us are ideal mothers, so, you know, we need to rethink this whole idea of the ideal.